Common Side Effects is a show on Adult Swim, and it was first broadcast in February 2025. It's the most compelling animation I've seen in a long time. It has a very distinctive look and deals with some challenging themes such as the problems caused by the pharmaceutical industry, the ethics of the individual, and metaphysical questions raised from use in psychedelic substances. Those who take the mushroom experience intense side effects. They access a portal, an astral plane, where they encounter strange humanoid creatures who appear to be sending them messages. In this video, I'm going to talk about these features and discuss what all this might mean. The Blue Angel mushroom is very potent, and it can only grow in precise conditions, so it is incredibly rare. The first time we see it in action is when Marshall administers it to a deceased pigeon. The bird experiences a flashback to when it first hatched out of its egg and goes on to make a complete recovery. But the second time we see the Blue Angel in action, it's on a human subject, Marshall himself, who takes it during a near-fatal plane crash in Peru. At first, his experience appears to be very similar to that of the pigeon, and we see his life flashing before his eyes, first as a fetus and then as a child. But this time, the vision has a new addition. Marshall finds himself in a strange landscape, which we'll come to know as the portal, but he isn't alone. The small white humanoid figures are never given a name in Common Side Effects, but they look very similar to the Kodama, tree spirits from Japanese folklore, who appear in the Studio Ghibli films Princess Mononoke and My Neighbor Totoro. Because of the similarities between the Kodama and the creatures in Common Side Effects, and because these creatures are not given names, I'm going to refer to them as the Kodama throughout this video. When Marshall first sees the Kodama, its head opens up like a lotus flower with a blue centre. This could be read as Marshall achieving a form of enlightenment, and the blue centre of the flower appears to be conveying a message about the importance of the Blue Angel. From this point onwards, the Kodama will have a lot of influence over Marshall and the other human characters in the story. Later on, Marshall and his friend Francis take the mushroom together. They enter the portal and the Kodama guide them towards depictions of recent events. Marshall sees John, a man he saves from a car crash, but left alone to deal with the side effects of the mushroom, and Francis sees a vision of her mum Sonia. Rick, her boss, and the chief executive of Reutical, the pharmaceutical company whom Francis has been discussing the mushroom with behind Marshall's back. And finally, she sees the face of Marshall himself, who berates her for betraying him.
Francis, how could you?
The Kodama are showing them both events which have caused them guilt, and it makes you question the Kodama's motives. They are obviously attempting to manipulate the people they interact with, but for what purpose? Are they attempting to make Francis and Marshall face up to their responsibilities, or are they just hacking their subconscious for their own ends? When Marshall finally learns about Francis's shady dealings with Rick, he cuts her out of his life. But the Kodama appear to have other ideas. When Marshall accidentally imbibes some of Hildy's tincture, the Kodama points him in Francis's direction. As we move through the show, the presence of the Kodama increases. They are no longer just seen in the portal. Those who have taken the mushroom start to see them during their waking lives. Francis goes on to see a Kodama which directs her towards Marshall, and Marshall sees one which directs him towards the upside-down elephant rock where Francis waits for him. And when the pair are finally reunited, two Kodama are seen dancing. The Kodama obviously want the pair together, but to what ends? Does this benefit Francis and Marshall, or are they just being manipulated by the mushroom? And if so, what does it want? Do they want Francis and Marshall to grow the mushroom? And if so, why do they want them in particular? We never learn what the Kodama are, but there are some clues. Marshall recounts his time in a Peruvian prison, where he saw a guy getting a prison tattoo of an epic battle between the Incas and space aliens. The aliens certainly look more vicious than Kodama, but there is quite the similarity. Could people have been interacting with these creatures for a really long time? If you're enjoying this video, please could you drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And now, on with the video. At first it appears to be just a hallucination, a weird trippy side effect from taking the Blue Angel. However, it's confirmed to be a real place where Marshall and Francis are seen communicating with each other in there. The implication being that we must take what happens in there very seriously. Several other characters find themselves in the portal, and I'm now going to discuss the experiences of Hildy, Tommy and Jonas. Hildy's life work has been her quest for the Blue Angel mushroom. When she learns that Marshall has found it, she becomes possessed with an insane need to acquire the mushroom by any means necessary, even resorting to a potentially lethal act of self-harm. When Hildy enters the portal, it is a grim and lonely place, a craggy ruin on a desolate moor with no Kodama to keep her company. She has literally lost her head, and when she is finally awoken, it is by a vision of a blue sphere being snatched away from her. Her obsession with the mushroom has finally consumed her. Hildy's experience in the portal makes me think that the events in there represent whatever the person has brought in with them. Hildy is bitter and twisted, and the portal has reflected this. Tommy is a young boy who suffers from a debilitating condition caused by the waste site near his home. In the portal, Tommy finds himself in a beautiful green meadow with several Kodama crawling on him. His facial scars fade away and his breathing becomes easier as they cure him. Unlike Hildy, Tommy is an innocent soul. He is only a kid, and despite his illness, which he knows is going to be the death of him, he remains positive and friendly to all those around him, so it's unsurprising that his experience in the portal was all sweetness and light, in direct contrast to that of Hildy. Jonas the Wolf Backstein is the chief executive of Reutical, a morally bankrupt individual whose core principles are screwed up beyond all recognition. Whilst Hildy's life's work was all about discovering and propagating the mushroom, Jonas has put considerable clout into destroying it and will stop at nothing to do so. However, his attitude changes when he becomes terminally ill with lung cancer. He uses all of his resources to track down the mushroom and finally learns of Marshall and Hildy's makeshift hospital. During the chaos of the raid on the hospital, Jonas greedily helps himself to several mushrooms and overdoses. Jonas finds himself in a nightmarish hellscape where he is an enfeebled version of himself. This version goes on to vomit increasingly more and more decrepit versions of himself, and it seems that he's permanently trapped there. I have a few theories as to why Jonas's experience was so negative. I don't think it had anything to do with his illness. Tommy was just as sick as he was, and his experience in the portal was nothing like that. It could be because he overdosed. I mean, one mushroom is sufficient, and he certainly took loads of them, and this can't have helped, but I don't think that was the reason either. Jonas is a bad person. Could this be the reason for all this horror? Possibly. He did some terrible things as part of his role at Reutical, and behaved hypocritically when he learned that he was sick. But Hildy is also a bad person, and she came away from the experience in the portal relatively unscathed. I think the mushroom itself is responsible for Jonas's fate worse than death. Hildy is a bad person, but she wanted to grow the mushroom, and so as such she remains relatively unharmed. Jonas tried to destroy it, and now he is trapped in unimaginable horror. At one point, Hildy, Marshall's old professor, says that the mushroom is talking to her. It knows what it wants, and it wants to be grown. Her comments echo those of the real-world mycologist and mystic Terence McKenna, who claimed to be able to communicate with an entity who lived in the psilocybin mushroom. But Hildy never provides any details of how the communication takes place. She is never seen interacting with the Kodama, and her experience in the portal was a cold and lonely one. Marshall also mentions her being on medication, which indicates that she may have suffered from delusions before and could be suffering from them now, so it isn't beyond reasonable doubt that Hildy is simply imagining things. However, I believe Hildy. I think she has been communicating with the mushroom, and I think it's manipulating her into growing it, in the same way that it's manipulating Francis and Marshall. Let me know what you think. Do you have any theories as to what's going on with the portal and the Kodama? Do you think they are manipulating the characters, and if so, what are their plans? Why do you think Jonas suffered a fate worse than death in the portal? There is a lot going on in common side effects, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface with this video. Next week I will be uploading a video about my predictions for what might happen in the second season, so please stick around for that. What do you think is happening in the portal and with the Kodama? Do you think that the mushroom is manipulating the human characters? And if so, what is its endgame? If you don't know what to write, please just drop a mushroom emoji and a tortoise emoji, or a Francis, how could you? Because comments really help with the algorithm. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are new to this channel, please check out my playlists. I've made a lot of videos about another Adult Swim show called The Venture Brothers, which you might enjoy. Welcome back to all my subscribers. You guys are awesome, and hello to any newcomers. Thank you so much to my channel members. I'm going to give you a shout out in this video's end screen, so please stick around for that. Add me on Blue Sky and add me on Instagram. The link is in my bio. I upload videos every weekend, so unless anything comes up before then, I'll see you next time.